Right. Hey, everyone. So, Eldin Hasa, he's got this event coming up, Awaken Your Limitless Potential and Transform Your Life. Catchy title. It's in Scottsdale this March.
Yeah.
2 days. Big commitment. We thought, let's deep dive into his stuff, see what he's all about, see if it's something our listeners might, vibe with.
And for this event in particular, he's zeroing in on two big things. Cutting-edge neuroscience, right? And then somatic therapy. It's like he's weaving those together to help people really understand and then work through the effects of trauma, which he thinks is a major thing holding people back.
Trauma. I mean, that word can be loaded. Some
Yeah.
people might hear that and think, oh, that's not me.
Right, exactly. And I think Hasa gets that. He's not just talking about massive life-altering events. He's also looking at those everyday ways that, trauma can kind of sneakily shape us,
Yeah.
like in our brains and our bodies,
Right.
leading to stress, anxiety, all that. Those limiting beliefs we get stuck in.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little. Neuroscience first. What's he saying there?
Well, he talks about how experiences, especially traumatic ones, can actually reshape our brains physically. He talks about the amygdala a lot, the part of our brain that deals with fear and emotions. And trauma can kind of put that into overdrive, like constant fight or flight, even when there's no real danger present.
So, our brains are stuck on high alert.
Exactly. Always on edge. But, and here's where it gets kind of cool, he goes into neuroplasticity, the whole idea that the brain can actually change and rewire itself. So it's not just, oh, trauma did this to you. It's like, okay, but here's how you can actually use that neuroplasticity to your advantage.
And that, I'm guessing, is where the somatic therapy comes in.
Boom! You got it. Hasa's whole thing is that trauma isn't just stuck in our minds, it's in our bodies too. That's the core of somatic therapy, working with the physical sensations or responses to actually unlock and release that trauma.
So instead of just talking it out, you're actually using your body to heal. That makes sense, especially if you're dealing with, the long-term effects of something.
It's a whole body approach for sure. Hasa pulls in a bunch of techniques, breathwork, movement, mindfulness practices, all that jazz. He says that kind of dual approach is key to really living one of his big ideas being, get this, human.
A human. Hold on, I got to hear more about this.
Yeah, it's definitely one of his more out there ideas. He's basically saying human is too limiting. Instead, we're these beings of light, color, vibration, constantly messing with the energies of the universe.
Whoa, okay, so literally glowing. Are we talking auras now?
Well, he does bring up biophotons, those tiny light particles that all living things emit. He uses that as kind of evidence, I guess. But it's less about a physical glow you can see and more about recognizing the energy we all carry and how that energy is shaping our reality.
Okay, I got to admit, I'm intrigued. How does that human idea actually show up in our lives? What does it mean?
So he uses this really cool analogy, right? He says emotions are like colors on a spectrum, vibrating at different frequencies, like love, joy, gratitude. Those are high frequency emotions, bright, vibrant colors,
And I bet anger, fear, sadness.
Yeah.
Those are the darker, heavier colors.
Bingo. Exactly. And he says that understanding our emotions as frequencies can help us shift our energy and ultimately change what we experience in life. By tuning into those frequencies, we understand ourselves better and can kind of navigate the world differently.
Yeah. We've all felt it. Walk into a room and the energy changes, positive or negative. So he's saying those feelings, they're not just in our heads. They have a real impact.
Right. And he's saying we might have more control over those frequencies than we think. That's a big part of what he explores in the 2-day event, especially when it comes to, getting to know and working with our shadow self.
Oh, the shadow self. I've heard that term thrown around, but honestly never fully understood it. What's Hasa's take on that?
Okay, so think of it like the parts of ourselves that we kind of hide or deny. It's that shadow side of our personality, right? Shaped by past hurts, fears, stuff we maybe don't want to deal with.
Like the stuff we try to lock away in the basement of our minds.
Exactly. But he's saying that ignoring it just makes things worse. Like it's trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Eventually it's going to pop up, and usually in ways we don't expect.
Yeah. We've all felt that, haven't we? Something bubbling up inside, like anger or sadness that we didn't even realize we were carrying.
And his point is, we need to acknowledge and integrate our shadow selves, not try to pretend they don't exist. He sees that as a crucial step in growing and healing, especially for unlocking our potential.
Okay, so we've got the neuroscience, the somatic therapy, humans, and the shadow self. It sounds like Hasa is covering a lot of ground in just 2 days. But How does he actually help people apply all this to their lives? Does he actually get into that at the event?
Oh, absolutely. He doesn't just throw theories around. He gives you practical techniques to put these ideas into action. That's what's really cool about his approach. It's not just about understanding yourself, it's about actively changing your life.
This is getting really interesting. Let's dive into those techniques then. See what Hasa has to offer when it comes to, those concrete tools for actually making a change. What do we start with?
Well, one of his big principles is about protecting your energy. He says the world's full of negativity that can just drain us, and we got to learn how to shield ourselves from that.
Right, right. We've all met those energy vampires who leave you feeling totally drained. What's Hasa say we can do about those folks?
Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Learning to say no, limiting your exposure to those negative people or situations, creating a space where you can recharge and replenish.
Like building a little protective bubble around yourself.
Yeah.
Keeping the bad stuff out and letting the good stuff in. I can see how that would be crucial, especially if you're doing, deep inner work like what Hasa's talking about.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment that supports you, helps you grow and feel good. And once you've got those boundaries set up, Hasa gets into one of his most powerful concepts, the whole co-creating reality thing.
Okay, that's a big one. What does he even mean by co-creating reality? Is he talking about, like, manifestation?
He is, but in a really grounded, practical way. He believes our thoughts and emotions are like this tuning fork, sending out vibes that the universe picks up on and responds to. He calls it co-creating because it's not just about like passively receiving whatever life throws at us. We're actually shaping our reality through our energy and intentions. We're in the driver's seat.
So if you want a brighter reality, got to tune your frequency to a more positive station. Like we're all walking radio towers, broadcasting our emotions to the world.
That's a perfect way to put it. And Hasa gives specific techniques for doing just that. Visualization, affirmations, tapping into the power of gratitude, all those things can help us shift our energy and attract what we want.
Okay, wow, we've covered a lot already. The science of trauma, co-creation. It sounds like Hasa's event is packed with info and practical stuff. But is there anything else he focuses on that might be helpful for our listeners to know about?
You know what? There's one more thing that really ties everything together. Hasa is big on gratitude. He sees it as more than just a nice feeling. It's like a vibrational shift, a way to instantly crank up your frequency. Remember that color analogy? Gratitude is like switching from a muddy brown to a vibrant gold.
So even if things aren't perfect, just finding things to be grateful for can actually change our energy. That's pretty cool.
It is, and he believes it's absolutely fundamental for anyone who wants to create a more positive, fulfilling reality. It's like the key that unlocks the door to our limitless potential.
This is making me think about that whole human idea again. If we're beings of light and energy, then it makes sense that gratitude would be like shining your light even brighter, amplifying those positive frequencies.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the good in our lives, even when things are tough, and letting that appreciation flow outwards.
I'm really starting to get a sense of Haas's approach here. He's mixing science, spirituality, practical tools to create this, like, roadmap for transformation. It's not just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about understanding the energy you carry and learning to use it consciously.
You nailed it. And the exciting thing is, Hasa's giving people a chance to experience all of this firsthand at his event. He's creating a space where people can really dive into these concepts, explore their own energy, and learn to harness their potential for positive change.
It does sound pretty appealing, like a truly immersive experience. But there's still this one big question for me. How does Hasa actually guide people through this process of change? What does the event actually look like?
Great question. To really get that, we got to look at the specific techniques he uses. And he pulls from some fascinating places. Cutting-edge research, ancient wisdom. It's a powerful mix that can lead to, like, serious breakthroughs.
Okay, I'm ready to go deeper. Let's explore those techniques then. See what Hasa has in store for anyone who shows up in Scottsdale. I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear the specifics, especially if they're thinking about going.
Absolutely. Let's get to the heart of his methodology, see what makes it so unique and effective. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of those techniques. Hasa starts by tackling trauma head-on. Right. Remember, he's using both the neuroscience stuff and somatic therapy. Two-pronged attack.
Yeah, I'm super curious how that actually works in practice. Like, okay, neuroplasticity, cool, but how do you really rewire your brain?
Okay, so one of the techniques he uses is called somatic experiencing. It's about gently guiding people to, like, Notice the physical sensations that are tied to past trauma. It's not about reliving the trauma itself. It's more about helping your nervous system actually process and release the energy that's like trapped in your body.
That sounds honestly pretty intense, but also really interesting. Is it kind of like talk therapy, but with a physical component?
It's definitely a different approach. It's about tapping into the body's natural intelligence for healing. He uses guided meditations, breath work, gentle movements, all that, helping people tap into that somatic wisdom.
So less about analyzing everything in your head, more about tuning into your body's signals and working with them.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, as you release that trauma from the body, you also start to shift those neural pathways in the brain. Hasa says this can lead to less anxiety, more calm, and even like a bigger capacity for joy and connection.
Okay, so we're rewiring the brain and releasing trauma from the body.
Yeah.
But what about those shadow cells we talked about? How do we actually integrate those into our lives?
So for that, Hasa uses a technique he calls, straight up, shadow work. It's about identifying the qualities and behaviors that we've like disowned or rejected. Those parts of ourselves that we think are bad or unacceptable, anger, jealousy, insecurity, anything we try to push away.
To be honest, that sounds a little scary. Who wants to intentionally face their dark side?
It can be challenging, for sure. But Hasa is really clear that it's not about judging those parts of yourself. It's about bringing them into the light, understanding where they come from, finding ways to make them part of your whole self.
So instead of trying to get rid of our shadows, we're actually learning to accept them as part of who we are. That's a pretty big shift in thinking.
It is. And Hasa believes it's totally essential for being whole and authentic. He says when we deny our shadows, they end up controlling us from the subconscious. But when we face them, we get the power to choose how we respond.
I see how all these pieces start to fit together now. You're dealing with the effects of trauma, body and mind. You're integrating your shadow self, and you're learning to protect your energy from all that negativity out there. It's like a whole system for transformation.
Exactly. And once you've got that foundation, then Hasa goes into the whole co-creation practice, helping people use their energy and intentions to actually manifest the things they want in life.
Okay, let's talk about that. We touched on co-creation earlier, but what does that actually look like? What kind of techniques are we talking about?
Visualization is a big one. Creating really clear, vivid mental images of what you want to experience. It's not just daydreaming, though. It's about engaging all your senses, feeling the emotions, really embodying that reality.
Like creating a movie in your mind, but with like full sensory immersion. Does Hasa think that just visualizing something is enough to make it happen?
He says it's most powerful when you combine it with action. It's not about sitting back and waiting for the universe to hand you everything. It's about taking steps that are aligned with your vision, taking action that feels inspired.
So it's like your actions have to match up with what you're picturing in your mind, creating a synergy between your inner world and your outer world.
Right on. And then there's affirmations, positive statements that reinforce the beliefs you want to have and actually help reprogram your subconscious mind.
It's like replacing that negative self-talk with something positive and empowering.
Exactly. And Hasa's big on repeating those affirmations, ideally out loud, so you really internalize them.
It sounds like a lot of this is about changing our mindset, our beliefs. Does Hasa ever talk about any specific limiting beliefs that might be holding people back?
Oh, all the time. One he talks about a lot is the scarcity mindset, that idea that there's not enough to go around. Money, love, opportunities, whatever. He encourages people to shift to an abundance mindset, recognizing the limitless potential that's within them and in the universe.
That's a big shift, for sure. It's so easy to get caught up in comparing yourself to others and feeling like you're not enough.
Hasa would say comparison is the thief of joy, totally. He's all about focusing on your own unique path and celebrating your wins no matter how small.
It's about knowing your worth, not needing someone else to tell you you're valuable.
100%. And he believes that when you step into that self-worth, you naturally attract more abundance. It's like a magnet.
It's amazing how he weaves all these things together, The neuroscience, the somatic therapy, the energy work, the mindset stuff. It's a really holistic approach.
Totally. And what makes it even more powerful is that Hasa doesn't just present these ideas in a theoretical way. He creates exercises and guided meditations that let people actually experience these concepts. They can feel that transformative power for themselves.
So it's not just a lecture, it's interactive, it's immersive.
Exactly. He's known for creating this really safe and supportive environment where people feel comfortable exploring their inner world and pushing their own boundaries. He uses music, movement, group sharing to build a sense of community and connection. which can be incredibly powerful for healing.
Yeah, I can imagine being in that kind of space would really amplify the effects of the techniques.
Absolutely. There's this synergy that happens when people come together with a shared intention to heal and grow.
Like the energy of the group creates this collective field that supports everyone's individual journey.
Yes. And Hasa's really intentional about cultivating that energy. He uses guided meditations to help people connect to their hearts, to each other, and to something bigger than themselves.
It sounds like he's creating a space where people can tap into their own inner wisdom, their own sense of purpose.
Exactly. And he believes that when we connect to that purpose, that's when we unlock our true potential. That's when we can really make a difference in the world.
Okay, so we've covered the techniques: somatic experiencing, shadow work, co-creation. But there's one thing we haven't talked about in detail yet: gratitude. We mentioned earlier that Hasa sees gratitude as a vibrational shift, a way to raise our frequency. But how does that actually play out in the event? How does he incorporate gratitude?
He weaves it into everything. Each day starts with a gratitude meditation. He's always reminding people to appreciate the small things, the simple moments, the people in their lives. It's like he's creating a whole culture of gratitude, where appreciation just becomes like a natural way of being.
It's not just about talking about gratitude, though, right? He actually gives people opportunities to experience it.
Oh, for sure. He might have people write gratitude letters, or share their appreciation with each other, or just spend time in nature, noticing the beauty around them.
I can see how those kind of practices would really shift your perspective, help you start to see the world in a whole new way.
It's about retraining your brain, basically. Focus on the positive, appreciate what you have, instead of dwelling on what you lack.
Powerful stuff. And it sounds like Haas is really serious about making it a central part of the whole experience.
Absolutely. He believes gratitude is the key to unlocking our hearts, opening ourselves to love and joy, creating a life that's truly meaningful and fulfilling.
It's inspiring to hear about someone who's so dedicated to helping people transform their lives. It sounds like this event is a really unique experience, potentially life-changing.
It is. And for anyone who's ready to embark on that journey, Hasa provides all the ingredients they need: the wisdom, the tools, the support, everything to guide them on their way.
Okay, so we've really dug into what Eldin Hasa offers at this Awaken Your Limitless Potential event. He's covering a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a sec.
Mhm.
Think about you, our listener. You're the one thinking about going, and it's a commitment, 2 whole days. What are the big things you should be considering before you jump in?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? And I think it goes beyond just what happens at the event. It's more about, is this the right fit for you right now in your life, on your journey, wherever you're at?
What do you mean by that?
Well, look, Hasa's work is powerful stuff, but it's deep. It's inner work. It's not like you just sit there and listen to him talk. He's going to ask you to engage, to actually feel your emotions, work with your body, confront maybe some past stuff.
That kind of self-exploration?
Right.
It can be tough.
Mhm.
Not for everyone.
Exactly. And that's okay. Hasa creates a safe space, but it's still on you to show up, to be vulnerable, to be okay with getting uncomfortable sometimes. It's your journey, you know?
So self-awareness is key here. Knowing your own limits, being ready to push them a little, but safely.
100%. And that brings up another thing, too. Hasa believes we can all heal, we can all transform, but it's not instant, right? It takes time. And it doesn't always go the way we expect.
So no magic bullets here. You don't walk out of the event a brand new person.
Right. It's more like planting seeds. Hasa gives you the tools, the support, the space for those seeds to grow, but you got to nurture them. You got to let the process unfold.
Patience, commitment, being okay with things getting a little messy sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Trusting the process. Knowing that transformation, it's a journey, not a destination.
So for anyone listening who's on the fence about this event, it sounds like the big question is, am I ready to dive in and do the work?
That's the question. And if the answer is yes, then yeah, Hasa's event could be exactly what you need to kickstart some major growth.
And even if the answer's not yet, or maybe not this time, there's still value in just learning about this stuff, exploring these ideas, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason we're so drawn to Hasa's work. It speaks to something deep inside us, that desire to heal, to connect, to live up to our potential.
And there are lots of ways to start that journey, whether it's Hasa's event, reading his book, or even just starting a gratitude practice. Any step you take towards knowing yourself better, towards growing, that's a good step.
That's a great reminder. The path to, awakening, it's personal. We each got to find what works for us.
Couldn't agree more. This has been a fascinating deep dive into Eldin Hasa's world. Hopefully it's giving you, our listener, a better sense of what he's about and whether this event is something you want to explore.
It's been great chatting with you about this today.
Remember, everyone, transformation starts from within. Trust yourself, listen to your heart, and embrace your own unique journey.
And don't forget, your light is powerful.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining.